You always thought I'd stay. You were wrong.
I'm Jake Thompson, 32, and I used to believe marriage was about partnership, like the whole two people rowing the same boat thing they promise you in wedding vows. Turns out marriage is actually about patience, specifically how long you can keep your composure while your wife spends every weekend with her ex-husband under the excuse of emotional closure. Yeah, that phrase has been haunting me for 3 months like a song you can't get out of your head. My wife Emma is 30, and when I married her 3 years ago, I genuinely thought I'd won the lottery. She was charming in that effortless way where everyone at parties gravitates toward her like she's magnetic. Witty, too, the kind of person who could roast you so smoothly you'd laugh while getting burned. But here's what nobody tells you in the marriage handbook. Charm and wit mean absolutely nothing when your spouse is allergic to the concept of boundaries. When her ex-husband Derek moved back to town 4 months ago, I didn't think much of it initially. Exes exist. They're part of your history, like that embarrassing haircut from middle school. Emma came to me one evening, coffee mug in hand, looking serious, and said Derek reached out because he was going through a rough time with his divorce finalization and needed closure. I nodded like an understanding modern husband who's totally secure and said, sure, closure is important. God, I was such an idiot. Closure, as I discovered over the following weeks, is apparently incredibly time-intensive. It required multiple coffee dates at that overpriced cafe downtown, where a latte costs more than my gym membership. Then it evolved into weekend brunches, because apparently nothing says I'm over you like sharing avocado toast and mimosas every Saturday morning. And then came the overnight art therapy sessions. Emma told me with a straight face that Derek was working through his emotional trauma by painting, and she needed to be there to support his creative healing journey. I'm not making this up. She actually used the phrase creative healing journey, like it was legitimate and not something pulled from a discount self-help book. I tried talking to my friend Carter about it because, honestly, I was starting to feel like I was losing my mind. We were grabbing beers after work one Thursday, and I laid it all out for him. Man, maybe I'm just overreacting, I said, swirling my beer around. Like maybe I'm being one of those possessive, insecure husbands who can't handle his wife having male friends. Carter, who's been married 8 years and has seen some stuff, looked at me like I just suggested the earth was flat. Bro, he said, and when Carter starts with bro, you know truth is about to drop. Closure doesn't take 6 consecutive weekends and a bottle of wine. That's not closure, that's dating. You're basically her side piece at this point. That hit differently. I sat there holding my beer, processing the fact that my own friend just essentially told me I'd been demoted in my own marriage. But the more I thought about it, the more I realized Carter had a valid, extremely uncomfortable point. Every single weekend for the past month and a half had revolved around Derek's emotional needs. Emma would get dressed up, and I mean dressed up with full makeup, hair curled, wearing outfits I hadn't seen since our honeymoon, to go support her ex-husband through his tough time. Meanwhile, I was sitting at home eating leftover pizza and watching Netflix alone like some divorced dad whose kids are at their mom's place for the weekend. The absolute kicker was whenever I tried bringing it up, Emma had this incredible ability to flip the script and make me feel like I was the problem. Jake, why are you being so insecure? She'd say, tilting her head in that condescending way. Derek is going through a really hard time, and I'm just being a good friend. You know I'm with you. Why can't you trust me? And there it was, the trust card. She'd play it every single time, and like a chump, I'd back down because I didn't want to be that guy, the controlling, jealous husband who can't handle his wife having a life outside their marriage. But here's what really started eating at me. The double standard of it all. During this whole Derek situation, my company had been offering me this incredible opportunity. I'm talking dream job territory here. Lead operations manager for our Singapore office, $145,000 base salary, housing allowance, relocation package, and an apartment with a skyline view that would make your Instagram followers weep with envy. It was the kind of offer that comes once in a career, the type that changes your entire life trajectory. And I'd already turned it down twice. Why? Because every time I brought it up with Emma, she'd shut it down faster than you can say emotional closure. I can't move to Singapore, Jake, she'd say, looking at me like I'd just suggested relocating to Mars. My entire family is here. My mom, my brother, my friends, my career. You can't expect me to just abandon everything I've built. And like the supportive husband I was trying to be, I'd nod and say, "You're right, babe. We'll figure something else out." Meanwhile, she was spending every weekend with Derek, prioritizing his emotional well-being over our marriage. But somehow my career opportunity was the unreasonable ask. The moment everything crystallized for me happened on a random Tuesday morning. I was getting ready for work, standing in our bedroom, tying my tie, when Emma came out of the bathroom wearing this gorgeous sundress, makeup already done, hair perfectly styled. It was 9 a.m. on a Tuesday. Going somewhere? I asked, already knowing the answer but hoping I was wrong. Oh, Derek's going through a rough morning, she said casually while putting on earrings. I'm just going to grab brunch with him, help him process some feelings. I stood there, tie half done, watching my wife get dolled up for another man, and something inside me just snapped. Do you really need to see him every weekend? I asked, and I could hear the exhaustion in my own voice. And now, weekdays too? She turned to me with this smile that I can only describe as the exact expression a politician makes when facing the press after a scandal. Sweet, practiced, completely hollow. He's my ex-husband, Jake. I'm helping him heal. It's called compassion. Maybe you should try it sometime. The casual cruelty of that comment just hung in the air between us. I watched her grab her purse, check her lipstick one more time in the mirror, and head for the door. Right before she left, she turned back and said, "If you can't handle me spending time with my ex-husband, then maybe we're not right for each other." She said it so matter-of-factly, like commenting on the weather or suggesting we switch laundry detergents. Then she walked out, leaving me standing there in our bedroom with my half-tied tie and the sudden, crystal-clear realization that she was absolutely right. We weren't right for each other. Not anymore. Maybe we never were. And you know what? I was completely okay with that. Every single weekend had turned into what I started calling the Derek Festival in my head. Saturday brunches became as regular as my morning coffee, except way more annoying and significantly more expensive since she kept using our joint credit card to pay for their emotional support meals. Sunday turned into movie therapy days because apparently watching films together is crucial for processing divorce trauma or whatever pseudo-psychological garbage she was selling me. And then Friday evening, casual check-ins got added to the roster like some kind of bonus content nobody asked for. Meanwhile, while my marriage was slowly circling the drain, my career was actually trying to throw me a lifeline. My boss, Richard, had pulled me into his office for the third time in 2 months to discuss the Singapore position. "Jake, I'm going to be straight with you," he said, leaning back in his chair with that serious expression. "This opportunity isn't going to wait forever. We need someone in Singapore, and you're our first choice. But if you keep declining, we're going to have to move on to other candidates." The offer was still sitting there, gleaming like a golden ticket. $145,000 base salary, full housing allowance that would cover a luxury apartment in one of the most expensive cities in the world. Relocation package, signing bonus, and a view that would make your eyes water. It was so beautiful. I'd already turned it down twice at this point, and both times it was because Emma had shut down the conversation before it could even really start. "I can't move, Jake," she'd said the first time I brought it up, barely looking up from her phone where she was probably texting Derek about their next brunch date. "My family's here. My whole life is here. You can't seriously expect me to just pack up and leave everything behind." The irony of her saying this while actively choosing to spend all her free time with another man wasn't lost on me. But I'd let it go because I was still trying to be the understanding husband. The second time I brought up Singapore, I'd actually prepared a whole presentation. I'm talking spreadsheets, cost of living comparisons, photos of potential apartments, research on expat communities, the whole 9 yards. I thought if I could show her how amazing this opportunity was, how it could change our lives, she'd at least consider it. But she'd barely glanced at my carefully prepared documents before saying, "Jake, I already told you. My career is here. My family is here. This isn't up for discussion." Then she'd gone back to getting ready for her Sunday movie therapy session with Derek, and I'd closed my laptop feeling like the world's biggest idiot for even trying. But that Tuesday morning, after she basically told me that if I couldn't handle her weekend boyfriend situation, then maybe we weren't right for each other, something shifted in my brain. It was like all the puzzle pieces suddenly clicked into place, and I could see the whole picture clearly for the first time in months. She could prioritize Derek's emotional needs over our marriage, spend every weekend playing therapist to her ex-husband, use our money to fund their little reunion tour, but my career opportunity, the one that could actually improve our lives and financial situation, was completely off the table because it would inconvenience her. The double standard was so massive you could see it from space. So that evening, after Emma came home from her Tuesday brunch special, smelling like Derek's cologne, and talking about how emotionally vulnerable he'd been today, I made a decision. She went to take a shower, probably to wash off the guilt or whatever, and I sat down at our dining room table, opened my laptop, and pulled up my email. My fingers hovered over the keyboard for maybe 10 seconds before I started typing. The email to Richard was short and to the point. Richard, I'll take the Singapore offer. If the 2-week notice period works for you, I can start the transition immediately. Let me know the next steps. Thanks, Jake. I read it over once, twice, then hit send before I could second-guess myself. The whoosh sound of the email sending felt like the starting tool at a race, and suddenly my heart was pounding in my chest. I'd just accepted a job on the other side of the world without discussing it with my wife, which technically made me a terrible husband. But then again, she'd been having what was essentially an emotional affair with her ex-husband for 3 months, without really considering my feelings. So, I figured we were about even in the terrible spouse department. When Emma came out of the bathroom 20 minutes later, hair wrapped in a towel and wearing her bathrobe, she found me still sitting at the dining room table with my laptop open. "What are you doing?" she asked, walking past me toward the kitchen. There was something so casual about the question, like she was asking what I wanted for dinner, or if I'd remembered to take out the trash. No concern, no real interest, just baseline spousal obligation to acknowledge my existence. "Career therapy," I said, and I couldn't help the slight smile that crossed my face. "Just accepted a new job. You should probably think about crashing at your mom's place tonight. Or, hey, maybe Derek's got a spare room since you two are so spiritually connected and everything." I kept my tone light, conversational even, like I was suggesting we try a new restaurant instead of essentially announcing the end of our marriage. The change in her expression was instantaneous and honestly pretty satisfying. Her eyes went wide, her mouth literally dropped open like in a cartoon, and she just stood there frozen halfway between the bathroom and the kitchen. "What?" The word came out strangled, like she couldn't quite process what she was hearing. "What are you talking about?" "Singapore," I said simply, closing my laptop and leaning back in my chair. "I'm taking the Singapore position. 2 weeks notice, and then I'm out. And since you said this morning that if I can't handle your ex-husband situation, then maybe we're not right for each other. I'm just agreeing with you. We're not right for each other. Problem solved." "Are you seriously ending our marriage over this?" she asked, and her voice had gone up about 3 octaves. The towel on her head was starting to slip, and she hadn't even noticed. "Over me trying to help someone who's going through a hard time? Are you actually that selfish?" I stood up, grabbed my laptop, and looked at her dead in the eye. "You said it yourself, Emma. We're not right for each other. I'm just the first one to actually do something about it. And, for the record, this isn't about me being selfish. This is about me finally choosing myself after months of you choosing him." Her mascara, which she'd carefully applied that morning for her brunch date, hadn't even fully dried before she started yelling, "You'll regret this, Jake. You're making a huge mistake." She was following me toward our bedroom now, her voice getting louder with each step. I paused at the bedroom door and turned back to her. "You know what? I really don't think I will. And honestly, I meant it. That Tuesday morning email to Richard wasn't just a career decision. It was a declaration of independence, my own personal 4th of July. Except instead of fireworks, I had a rapidly improving salary package and an exit strategy. While Emma was busy applying her war paint for another emotionally intense brunch session with Derek, I was feeling more alive than I had in months. The clarity was overwhelming. One minute you're drowning in confusion and self-doubt, wondering if you're the crazy one, and the next minute everything just clicks into place like a perfectly solved puzzle. I started packing clothes into my suitcase with zero care for organization. 20 minutes later, I was walking out of our apartment with my suitcase rolling behind me, and Emma was still in the kitchen, mascara running down her face, phone in her hand, probably texting Derek about the dramatic turn of events. She looked up as I passed, her mouth opening like she wanted to say something, but I just kept walking. The door closing behind me was one of the most satisfying sounds I'd ever heard. As I loaded my suitcase into my car, my phone buzzed, a text from Richard. "Fantastic news, Jake. Welcome to the Singapore team. I'll have HR send over the relocation package details by end of day. This is going to be great." I sat in my car for a minute, staring at that text message, and allowed myself a genuine smile. For the first time in 3 months, I felt like I could actually breathe. No more weekend Derek festivals, no more emotional closure excuses. No more feeling like a side character in my own marriage. 20 minutes after I walked out, my phone started blowing up like I just announced I was running for president. Emma attempted what I can only describe as a hostage negotiation via text message. Jake, we can talk about this. Then, Jake, I'll stop seeing him. I promise we can work this out. Then barely 10 seconds later, Jake, this is childish. You're acting like a child throwing a tantrum. I had to laugh at that last one. I was being childish, not the woman who'd spent 3 months playing house with her ex-husband while gaslighting her current husband into thinking he was the problem. The audacity was almost impressive. I took a sip of my overpriced latte and watched the messages continue to roll in, one after another, each one more desperate than the last. We've been together for 3 years. You're going to throw that away? I love you. Doesn't that mean anything? Derek means nothing to me. It was just closure. I'm done with him now. The thing about damage control is that it only works if the other person actually cares about salvaging what's being damaged. And sitting there in that Starbucks parking lot, watching my phone light up with increasingly frantic messages, I realized I genuinely didn't care anymore. That ship hadn't just sailed. It had left the harbor, crossed the ocean, and was probably halfway to Singapore by now. I didn't reply to any of them. Instead, I opened my email and started looking at the relocation package details Richard's assistant had already sent over. Business class flight to Singapore, $5,000 relocation allowance, temporary corporate housing for the first month while I found my own place, and a signing bonus that was more than I'd made in the last 6 months combined. By evening, the text messages had slowed down, and I figured maybe she'd finally gotten the hint. I checked into a Holiday Inn Express and was settling in to watch some mindless TV when my phone buzzed with a notification. Instagram. Emma had posted a story. Curiosity got the better of me, and I clicked on it. There she was, sitting on what was very clearly Derek's balcony, holding a coffee mug and staring pensively into the distance like she was the star of some indie drama film. The caption read, "When life gives you curveballs, drink coffee." I actually laughed out loud. The woman had literally just lost her marriage because she couldn't stop seeing her ex-husband, and her immediate response was to run to said ex-husband's apartment and post about it on social media. The lack of self-awareness was genuinely breathtaking. Within minutes of her posting that story, my phone lit up with a text from Lisa, one of Emma's friends who had the loyalty of a hungry raccoon. "Did you really move out?" she texted, and I could practically hear the gossip-hungry excitement. "Not yet," I replied. "But I'm packing faster than Amazon Prime, so give it a couple days." Then came a text from my buddy Marcus, who worked at the same gym where Derek was a member. "Dude, you need to see this." Attached were screenshots from what appeared to be a group chat. Derek's name was at the top, and the messages were from earlier that day. I zoomed in and started reading, and with each line, my satisfaction level skyrocketed. Yeah, she's practically single now. Meeting up with her later? Her husband's completely clueless. Dude has no idea what's going on. She said he's being all weird about us hanging out. Like, bro, we're just catching up. Captain Oblivious over there probably thinks we're doing Bible study or something. There it was in digital black and white. Derek calling me Captain Oblivious, laughing about the situation with his gym buddies, bragging about how he was essentially having an affair with my wife while I played the fool. The thing is, I wasn't even mad. I was vindicated. This was exactly the confirmation I needed that every instinct I'd had over the past 3 months was dead-on accurate. "Marcus, you're a legend," I texted back. "Can you send me the full screenshots?" "Already did. Thought you might need them." I saved those screenshots like they were precious artifacts, because honestly, they kind of were. Then I did something that probably wasn't my most mature moment, but it felt absolutely necessary. I opened my text conversation with Emma, attached the screenshots, and sent them with a single word. "Closure?" The response was immediate. My phone started ringing within 30 seconds, Emma's name flashing on the screen. I let it ring. Then she called again. I let that one go to voicemail too. Then came the rapid-fire text messages like she was trying to set some kind of speed typing record. "Where did you get those?" "Those are out of context." "Jake, answer your phone." "This isn't what it looks like." "Derek was joking around with his friends. That's how guys talk. You're taking this completely the wrong way." I screenshot her messages too, just for the collection. And then I did something I should have done weeks ago. I muted her notifications. Not blocked because I figured I'd probably need to communicate with her about divorce logistics eventually, but muted so I could have some actual peace and quiet. Then I forwarded the screenshots to Lisa with a simple message. Since you seem interested in the drama, here's the full story. Derek's been playing both of us. Thought you should know what kind of person your girl's been spending all her time with. Was it petty? Absolutely. Did it feel amazing? You bet it did. Within an hour, Lisa had apparently shared those screenshots with her entire friend group because I started getting texts from people I barely knew. Friends of friends who'd heard about the situation. Most were surprisingly supportive with messages like, "Dude, you dodged a bullet, and Emma is crazy, you're better off." My personal favorite came from Carter, who'd been skeptical about the whole situation from the beginning. His text was simple and perfect. Told you closure doesn't take 6 weekends and a bottle of wine. Welcome to the other side, brother. First round's on me. The next Saturday, I went back to the apartment to grab the rest of my stuff while Emma was supposed to be out. Naturally, the universe had other plans because when I pulled up, I saw 3 cars I recognized. Emma's car, her mother Janet's pristine white Lexus, and her brother Ryan's obnoxiously lifted truck. This wasn't going to be a simple packing day. This was going to be an intervention, and I was the interventionee. I unlocked the door and walked in to find all 3 of them sitting in my living room like they were staging some kind of talk show intervention episode. Janet was perched on the edge of the couch, wearing her serious conversation outfit. Ryan was standing by the window with his arms crossed, trying to look intimidating. And Emma was sitting in the armchair, eyes red and puffy, playing the sufferer role like she was auditioning for an Oscar. "Jake, honey," Janet started, "Emma told us everything, and we're very concerned about you. This decision to move abroad, to just abandon your marriage, it's clearly a cry for help. We think you might be having some kind of midlife crisis." I actually had to bite the inside of my cheek to keep from laughing. A midlife crisis at 32? Because apparently the only logical explanation for a man leaving his wife who was having an emotional affair was mental instability. "Janet, I appreciate your concern, but this isn't a midlife crisis. A midlife crisis is buying a sports car you can't afford. This is just me accepting a better job with better pay and a better location." "You're abandoning your wife," Ryan interjected, puffing out his chest. "Real men don't just run away when things get tough." The irony of Ryan lecturing me about being a real man when he still lived in his mom's basement at age 28 wasn't lost on me. "You're right, Ryan. Real men stay in marriages where their wives spend every weekend with their ex-husbands. That's definitely the alpha male move." Emma made a sound that was half sob, half gasp. "Jake, that's not fair. You're making it sound so much worse than it was." "Am I, though?" I pulled out my phone and opened up the screenshots Marcus had sent me. "Here, since Emma apparently gave you her version of events, let me show you what was actually happening." I handed my phone to Janet. She put on her reading glasses and started scrolling, her eyes moving back and forth across the screen. I watched her expression change from defensive to confused to shock to absolutely mortified. Her mouth literally fell open. "These are," she started, then stopped, scrolling down to read more. "Derek wrote these about you while he was having what was essentially an emotional affair with your daughter. Yeah, that's exactly what was happening. And when I tried to bring it up, I was told I was being insecure and jealous." Emma jumped up from the armchair, her face going red. "Those are out of context. Derek was just joking around with his friends. That's how guys talk." "That's how guys talk about women they're sleeping with, Emma. Not about the husbands of women they're just getting closure with. There's a difference." The room went absolutely silent. Janet slowly handed my phone back to me. And when I looked at her face, I could see the gears turning. She was realizing that maybe her precious daughter wasn't the innocent sufferer in this story. "Jake," Janet said quietly, and her tone had completely changed. The judgment was gone, replaced with something that sounded almost like understanding. I didn't know it was like this." "Yeah, well, now you do. And just so we're clear, I didn't abandon Emma. I honored her request. She said if I couldn't handle her relationship with Derek, maybe we weren't right for each other. I simply agreed with her assessment and acted accordingly." They left about 5 minutes later, all 3 of them filing out like mourners leaving a funeral. Emma tried to catch my eye as she left, her face streaked with tears, but I just kept packing. I heard the door close, the lock click, and then finally blessed silence. The morning of my flight to Singapore felt surreal in the best possible way. I woke up at 4 in the morning, not because my alarm went off, but because I was genuinely too excited to sleep. I got dressed, double-checked my passport approximately 17 times, and loaded my luggage into my Uber. After checking my bags and getting through security, I found myself sitting at my gate with about an hour to eliminate before boarding. That's when I decided to do something that was probably petty but felt absolutely necessary. I pulled out my phone, opened Instagram, and took a selfie right there in the terminal. Nothing fancy. Just me with my boarding pass visible, the gate number clear in the background, and a genuine smile on my face. I posted it with the caption, "New chapter begins, Singapore bound." The comments started rolling in within minutes. Most people had no idea what had happened since I'd kept my marriage drama relatively private until this point. My personal favorite came from Carter, who just commented with 3 emojis: a plane, a middle finger, and a champagne glass. I was scrolling through the comments when my phone buzzed with a text message. Emma, of course, because apparently even my departure day couldn't be drama-free. "What's your weekend like?" the message read, and I had to admire the audacity. She was really trying to play it casual. I opened my camera, took another selfie, this time making sure to get the giant Singapore Changi Airport sign clearly visible in the background, and sent it to her with the caption, "No X's, just upgrades." The typing bubbles appeared almost immediately. Disappeared. Appeared again. Finally, a message came through. "This isn't funny." I typed back quickly. "Not a joke. Currently at gate C12. Boarding in 45 minutes. But hey, you've got plenty of time to grab brunch with Derek now. Silver lining." She tried calling. The phone rang in my hand, her name flashing on the screen. I watched it ring once, twice, 3 times. And then I did something that felt incredibly empowering. I declined the call and immediately turned my phone to airplane mode. Done. Finished. The Emma chapter of my life was officially closed. They called my boarding group about 30 minutes later, and I gathered my carry-on and laptop bag with this weird mix of excitement and relief washing over me. Business class window seat. Because if you're going to fly halfway across the world to escape your failed marriage, you might as well do it in comfort. The flight attendant greeted me with a warm smile. "Heading home or heading out?" "Heading out," I said, settling into my seat. "Fresh start? Well, you picked a beautiful city for it. Can I get you anything before takeoff?" "Champagne," I said, because honestly, champagne at 8 in the morning on a Saturday seemed like exactly the right way to celebrate escaping a toxic marriage. About 20 minutes later, the plane began to back away from the gate. The captain gave the usual welcome speech over the intercom, and soon we were speeding down the runway. The nose lifted, and we were in the air. I watched my city fade below me. Streets, buildings, and landmarks turning into toy versions of themselves before disappearing into the clouds. Singapore was even better than I'd imagined. My apartment sat on the 23rd floor, its floor-to-ceiling windows framing a skyline that looked unreal. Every morning I'd wake up, brew coffee, and watch the sunrise, thinking how just a month earlier I'd been watching Emma get ready for another brunch with Derek. Work was incredible. The Singapore office felt newer, smarter, and everyone actually wanted to be there. The raise didn't hurt either. I could finally enjoy the city without worrying about money. Life was calm and simple, which should have warned me something dramatic was coming. It began with Emma's social media meltdown. Carter texted me screenshots with, "Bro, you have to see this," Emma had posted on Facebook. "When your husband picks money over love, you find out who truly stands by you." The comments weren't what she expected. One said, "Didn't you have brunch with your ex every weekend? I saw the stories." Another wrote, "Money over love? Didn't he ask you to move with him and you said no for Derek?" My favorite came from a woman named Patricia. "He upgraded. Let him live." Carter sent another message. "It gets better." The next screenshot showed someone tagging Derek's new girlfriend, Sophie. Sophie replied, "Funny post. Derek told me you wouldn't leave him alone, said you were using closure to get him back. That's not true, right?" Emma never replied. Then Sophie dropped her own post. Screenshots of Derek's group chat, the one where he called me a Captain Oblivious and bragged about Emma acting single. Her caption read, "PSA, if a guy says his ex-wife's husband doesn't know about their friendship, maybe ask what kind of friendship that is." It blew up. Hundreds of likes and shares. Emma and Derek both deleted their accounts. Marcus said Derek showed up at the gym and got called Weekend Derek to his face. 2 weeks later, I got a message from a Singapore number, Sophie. She'd gotten my number from Marcus, apologized, and said she'd dumped Derek after learning the truth. We chatted briefly. She was cool and even said my new life looked amazing. Then 6 weeks after moving, building security called, "Mr. Thompson, there's a woman here claiming to be your wife." Emma, in Singapore, crying in my lobby. I told them to send her to the coffee shop across the street. She showed up looking worn out. No makeup, messy hair, hoodie, and leggings. Not the woman who used to spend an hour getting ready for Derek. I messed up, Jake, she said. Derek wasn't worth it. None of it was. I ruined everything. Which part hurts more? I asked. Losing me or getting dragged online? She winced. That's not fair. It's fair enough, I said. You had months to care about this before the internet did. She insisted she came because she still loved me. I flew across the world to prove it. Without calling first? I asked. I knew you wouldn't answer. So this is another version of not respecting boundaries, just like before. Then she said it. Jake, I'm pregnant. I actually laughed. Emma, we haven't been together in months. Unless Derek's middle name is Jake, that baby isn't mine. She turned red. I just wanted you to care. So you lied about a baby to get my attention? I panicked. You're thriving here, and I'm stuck in the fallout. I just wanted you to feel something. I do, I said. Relief, because this manipulation is exactly what I left behind. I didn't think you'd actually leave, she whispered. That's the problem, I said. You always thought I'd stay no matter what. I looked at her one last time and felt nothing. You had plenty of chances, Emma. You chose wrong every time. You don't get another one. I walked away, went back to my apartment, and deleted her final text. I'm sorry for everything. 2 weeks later, she posted selfies with her yoga instructor captioned, "The universe heals what's broken." Then she caught him cheating with his ex. Her next post was about trust issues and patterns. I actually laughed. But karma wasn't done. Derek got transferred to Singapore, to my building. When he walked into the lobby with a girlfriend half his age, he smirked and said, "Small world." Yeah, I replied. Some people just keep shrinking it. Months later, Emma messaged again. I finally get how you felt. I'm sorry. I didn't reply. Soon after, she got hit with 3 years of unpaid taxes and penalties. 22 grand. Ironically, Sophie worked for the state revenue office. Meanwhile, I got promoted, renewed my contract, and started dating Rachel, a London architect who thinks needing 6 weekends for closure is ridiculous. She's right. Derek still hasn't found closure. His girlfriend dumped him in our lobby after seeing Sophie's viral post. Everyone still calls him Weekend Derek. If Emma ever reads this, your ex-husband and I are doing fine. He's still chasing healing. I found mine 30,000 feet up, flying away from you.